Hi, I'm Jacqueline Eckern with Eating Disorder Hope, and we are so glad to have you at our inaugural online conference. We're thrilled to have Charlotte with us today, who is sharing her own recovery story and how she reclaimed her life from her eating disorder. Charlotte is a social worker, she's a Christian, she's a blogger, she's a wife, and most importantly, a dog mom. She struggled with an eating disorder starting at age 13 and has fortunately been in recovery for years now. In her professional life, she works in a managed care setting. In her personal time, she enjoys Michigan and hanging out with her friends, family, writing, church, and reading. By writing about eating disorders and mental health issues and participating in eating disorder advocacy, she hopes to show others that recovery and healing are possible. So with that, I would like to just begin our conversation. This is Charlotte. And Charlotte, can you just tell us a little bit about your background and what possibly led to the eating disorder, in your opinion?
Yeah, there's a lot there, and I'm still unpacking some of that in my own therapy. In a lot of ways, I met some of the, classic, the eating disorder, common personalities, the perfectionist type personality, very rigid. I was a high achiever in school. The two bigger things, though, that I think pushed the sort of perfect storm off the edge were my my environment. So both my family life and just I grew up in a pretty upper middle class suburb that was not very forthcoming about issues people might have, and I felt very invalidated when I would feel things more strongly than other people would. And then the second thing is that starting from a pretty young age, I had severe anxiety and OCD, and that going undiagnosed really took a toll, and my eating disorder in some ways was a way for me, without knowing what I had, to kind of make myself feel better, or so I thought.
So with this perfectionistic trait and some of the environmental factors that went on, it definitely sounds like it was a precursor if you had that genetic predisposition. And then having the anxiety and OCD, we sure see that a lot as a co-occurring issue.
Right.
What moved you to conclude that you actually had an eating disorder and wanted to take steps to help yourself?
So that was a process of years. When I was officially diagnosed with an eating disorder was years before I accepted that diagnosis for myself. When I was diagnosed with anorexia, the only experience I knew of it, I had not had any health class information about eating disorders. The only person I knew at the time, turns out I had no more, I just didn't know who they were then. I had a cousin who actually died of anorexia, and my family members, even before I got an eating disorder, would always say things about her that were very degrading and invalidating of her struggle. She became a huge part of my motivation to recover, because nobody should die from an eating disorder. It's a tragedy, and she never got the help that she needed. But I was so ashamed of my diagnosis that I didn't accept it for years until I was in residential treatment for the first time at 18. And that diagnosis, I met other people at treatment who had that diagnosis, and I felt less ashamed of it. And it was then that I could feel like I could own that and be like, okay, I struggle with this. But before that, I was just too ashamed, and I didn't admit it to myself, definitely, but even my friends.
So that's interesting that when you went into treatment the first time, that just it's somewhat lessened the stigma for you, it sounds like, just by meeting other
Mhm.
individuals that had struggled with it to help offset some of the messages you've gotten that this is a shameful thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And how was that experience going into residential treatment at 18, and what did that look like for you?
It didn't go well, which is, I mean, the reality is a lot of people with eating disorders, I mean, just because you relapse doesn't mean you're a failure. And I mean, you can get better. And I mean, I did a lot of things wrong, such as I left treatment, and literally the day after that, I moved into college, which was a horrible idea. And I relapsed within 2 days and developed new eating disorder behaviors. So um, it was a mess, but um, it was a good experience in that I did feel more confident in owning my diagnosis. And I had my first thought that treatment would be possible. And it was also good to know that residential treatment wasn't a scary experience. Sometimes when you're outpatient, it can be kind of used as a threat. Like if you get worse, you'll have to go to the hospital and they'll make you eat all this stuff you don't want to eat. And it wasn't scary at all. Um, it was overall like I still keep in contact with some people who I went to treatment with there.
That's nice. That's nice that you had
Yeah.
some standing relationships come out of that. And so you went to school right away after treatment, and it sounds like
Yeah.
there was a lot of relapse issues. So what happened from there?
Yeah, it was bad and I yeah, definitely developed more sort of binging, exercise issues that in the past it had been more strictly restricting anorexia and a lot of people with eating disorders cross behaviors. It's common to, deal with a lot of different things over the course of having an eating disorder. So I ended up relapsing pretty badly. I was 2 months away from graduation from college, and I had taken the GRE. I was applying to grad school, and I just felt awful. I knew that I needed to go to treatment probably, but I just thought if I could just hold out until school was done, but then in holding out, knowing that I probably would have to go to treatment, I things kind of got out of control very, very fast. So I was medically withdrawn from school, which I didn't know could happen to me, but it happened. But I thank God for that experience. Like I could be dead right now. And I thank my administration for doing that because I finished school in treatment. Um, and my professors were really accepting. So I ended up um, at treatment again in residential treatment at 21.
So right before college, and then right at the end of that college phase, you went back.
Yeah, I probably should have gone to residential treatment really at 13, but it just, we've developed so much more knowledge about eating disorders, but back in like 2000, I mean, people, I mean, for instance, a family friend got my mom a copy of a book written by someone who um, did just kind of some older treatment methods of feeding and things like that. And I remember just feeling such shame that, you know, I don't know that that was something that was, being done for people with my diagnosis. And but there's been so much more innovation in eating disorder treatment, like so much more. But back when I was 13, there really wasn't that much, and my family didn't know what to do. And people in my community really, um, people weren't open about their struggles. Um, and so I didn't go to treatment. And I think it would have been better for me to go to treatment as a teenager, but I didn't know.
Sure, I can relate. I'm much older than you, but the same thing. If I had gone to treatment at 13, what a difference that would have made. So I really understand in retrospect that feeling. So then when you're 21, you enter treatment, and what's different in you this time, and what did you find that was pivotal that helped you start moving towards recovery?
So I didn't feel particularly motivated to recover. I was depressed, I was sick, and really miserable. But I did make the decision this time in treatment to listen to the treatment professionals. And the reason I did that was because I was so miserable doing things my way that I pretty much saw it as like, I can give this one last shot and just do the things they're telling me to do, and just trying to lean into the process instead of trying to manipulate my environment. And it was difficult, um, but very, yeah, I mean, it was very difficult. Like, I think I forget about it sometimes now, how miserable I was. Being asked to give up your behavior suddenly is like losing part of yourself, or so it feels like at the time. But I did, and it's the best thing that I ever did.
So you get out of treatment and you've got some new skills, and what what have you found to be helpful in since that time frame is just sort of your your game plan, your recovery game plan? Are there certain things that you make sure that you do, or ways that you think to try to keep yourself recovery oriented?
Yeah, so two things. The most important thing is that if I'm not focusing on my eating and staying physically healthy, then I mean, that always needs to be my number one priority. So I put the physical recovery part of that very high up on my list, because when my brain isn't functioning optimally because of lack of calories, um, then it's much harder to practice skills and cope with the rest of life. So, um, and I mean, I haven't been perfect at that, but I've gotten more and more solid in that and have been consistently in recovery from that for a few years. And then I think treatment the second time around kind of opened up the floodgates to some of the actual reasons behind my eating disorder, some of them deeper, more trauma related ones. And that was something that once I kind of opened that can of worms, I couldn't really shut it without dealing with it. And it's something I still deal with in therapy. So that's also very important to me. So maintaining regular treatment appointments, taking care of myself physically, and being, I mean, tons of things. Also emotionally, staying open to what I'm feeling. Again, I'm not perfect, but trying to stay as aware as possible, so I can, best deal with my emotions, using skills besides food, exercise, other eating disorder symptoms.
Sure, sure. And so this aftercare approach that you have for yourself. Do you have a treatment team, and what is that like, and how long have you been working with them, and what do you think, just your opinion, is average for needing to work with a team after getting out of treatment?
So a lot of my treatment friends are fully recovered now. I went to treatment 8 years ago, and that's awesome for them. But since I also have OCD and other anxiety, I do work with a therapist, a dietitian I see every few weeks or every month. I do see a psychiatrist because I mean, if my OCD symptoms are bad, I literally can't function in life. So my medication has to always be a priority. Um, so that's kind of like the people that I regularly see. And even though I'm doing well and, um, things like that, I still feel like it's necessary to see people, um, because I don't consider myself fully, like some people say that they're recovered as like past their eating disorder, but I don't necessarily see it as a past tense situation. And so I'm always trying to be vigilant.
Yes, yes, completely understand that. And I know that you have these external support systems that you have relied on that have strengthened you in your recovery. Are there other things that you do, like journaling, or are there any books, or are your dog, like for me, my dog's pivotal in my eating disorder. What kinds of things, just very simple, do you use to nurture and soothe yourself other than disordered behavior?
So I found that I really like writing. I have a blog and I enjoy just kind of writing my observations about the world. And I think at least sometimes I think a little bit outside of the box, in just different areas of life. And I enjoy kind of sharing those um, with other people. Um, I also find a lot of wholeness through my work. I learned kind of over time that perhaps since I've struggled with my own issues, I have a lot of empathy and compassion for people who struggle with actually more severe disabilities. And so I've worked in the field of more Medicaid funded behavioral health. So people who have things like Down syndrome or schizophrenia, so more severe issues, but that advocacy really brings me life. And so I enjoy doing that. And I do love my dog. My dog is extremely high maintenance. She has a ton of allergies and she has to wear a onesie right now, which I think makes me sound like a crazy dog parent, but she keeps licking herself compulsively, so she has to wear a onesie. And I love her. So that's kind of, oh, and church is another thing that's very important to me. My faith was a huge part of my healing journey, and connecting with God. And I'm also kind of a theology nerd, so doing things in that realm makes me really happy.
So feeding yourself spiritually and
Yeah.
leaning into your faith has been an important component of your recovery.
Yes. Yeah.
Mine too.
Mm.
So we have a few questions from people. One is, how can people find your blog and follow you on that?
So I blog on a site called Where I Stand, and I am a regular blogger there. Um, I have also been on The Mighty, and if you look up, I use my maiden name for writing, so Charlotte Sandy is my last name. It's not my middle name. Well, it is my middle name now, but it's a last name. So Charlotte Sandy. And my actual personal blog is it's charlotteontheweb.com with dashes between all the words. So
charlotteontheweb.com. Okay.
yes, yeah.
Make sure that we make that accessible to everyone who's attending too. And
Okay.
do you have any advice for somebody who might be watching, trying to get the courage to just go into some form of treatment, maybe just to see a nutritionist or a therapist, or all the way into residential treatment? What would you say to them?
I would say that I really wish that I had been able to do that. So I think whoever is looking into that is extremely courageous. There's so many messages that people get that, you know, seeking treatment for something isn't okay, or it feels like, I know for me, it felt like a scarlet A that everyone could see, and it felt so shaming. But once I really stepped into it, I realized that it was the pathway to healing. It wasn't a black mark on me or something that made me bad or wrong. So I would say that please feel free to reach out to whoever you want. And there's nothing wrong with reaching out for help. I know that that's easier said than done, but I really, really feel for you if you're in that situation. And there's so many resources that were, again, not out there for me, or maybe they were and I just didn't know, but so many great hotlines you can call, or you can even text, like, and, you know, just kind of be open with people. And I feel like that first step is the hardest.
Yeah, I agree. That first step is really hard and so important. Another question was, how is body image for you now? And do you have any recommendations for others that are in longer term recovery about body image?
So I'm not even gonna lie, I am not cured in my body image struggles, but I have heard, like, in treatment, they would often tell me you can't eat in relation to how you feel. Like, that's, I mean, you need to eat because you need to nourish your body, and body image is often the last thing to go. And I think that some people are in recovery for a lifetime and they never fully, you know, I mean, how is it possible to feel wonderful about your body in our culture even? I mean, you know, you feel, I mean, regardless of eating disorder history, you don't see people walking down the street feeling great about their bodies. You see celebrities or, you know, models who are criticizing their bodies even. And that's the kind of, quote, cultural ideal. So I try to just ignore whatever my brain might be thinking about it, and trying to, you know, act opposite to that and just really eat in response to what my body is hungry for and what I need to do.
Very good. Thank you for that transparency and just authenticity. I
Yeah.
think almost everybody I know in recovery would identify absolutely with all the things that you're saying, and I do too. Another question is, do you feel that there are any support groups that you would recommend, or websites or books for that were helpful to you personally?
Oh, that's a good question. Yes, I've read a lot. I kind of want to write an eating disorder memoir, and so I've read like literally every one that is out there. Um, a lot of them are actually a little, they can get a little bit, not necessarily even triggering, but little into a how-to guide. Um, so the things that I really like, Carrie Arnold has always been, I've really loved her work, and her book Decoding Anorexia was really good. I remember enjoying that a lot. Um, let's see. Um, I have personally been to Celebrate Recovery, and in fact, I have a friend who is really involved in Celebrate Recovery who we went to treatment together 8 years ago, and she actually just wrote a book. So I'm really excited to read that. But it's about her journey to recovery from her own eating disorder. And it's so inspiring to have gone to treatment with people who you saw them 8 years ago, and that kind of memory of her is kind of imprinted in my mind. And now, like 8 years later, she's totally in recovery and just wrote a book. So pretty awesome.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's great. So Carrie Arnold is an author that you recommend in Decoding Anorexia, the book, and Celebrate Recovery. I agree, that is a good resource. And then folks should probably follow your blog to find out. I would assume you'll cover your friend's book as this is released.
Yeah, she is a really awesome blog too. I don't know, I just know a lot of awesome people. It's really, I mean, it's great when you kind of grow in your eating disorder community and you get to see people on their journeys and who they become after their eating disorder. And I mean, they can write books, or, you know, I can't even tell you the amount of people who've gotten married and had children, and, you know, which is huge. And it's so inspiring to know that, you know, like 8 years ago, I thought I might die, you know, in the most literal sense. And now, you know, I see people in a totally different context, and it's inspiring.
Yes, I agree. Great presentation. Thank you for taking the time to share your recovery story with us. It's very inspiring.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. It's really great to, you know, get the opportunity to share my story and just connect with people. And I mean, if you guys have any questions, I mean, my journey is in a lot of senses not unique, but in terms of the comorbid issues, the, you know, OCD, that really they can become a dangerous combination of, you know, wrapping eating disorder and OCD symptoms. And I would definitely love to be a resource. So thank you.
So anyone watching today's presentation can enter questions in the lower right-hand corner of your screen, and we will be sure, if those questions weren't already addressed, to ask Ms. Charlotte to go ahead and respond to you. Thank you so much, and have a great evening.
Yeah, you too.
Bye-bye.